So, this is God Emperor Gloating Part 5. You might wonder why I'm gloating, but if you look into the future, you'll see all humanity, or those who aren't protected by yours truly, will be wiped out by superintelligent AI. If you didn't understand why, there are so many videos out there, but this guy has got some really good stuff.
Because of the systems that us humans have in place, even if we weren't in a capitalist system, we would always be in this human system. And by the way, you use that word arrogance quite a lot in the book, Mo. And I thought that was very interesting, which will help us talk about the last section. But you're pretty hard on us humans, probably for good measure. And we're gonna have to start looking at ourselves in the mirror in a very serious way over the next couple of years. We won't have a choice. It's a bit like an ayahuasca ceremony. It's like you're gonna have to look yourself in the eye because
absolutely.
Yeah. Pretty soon you're gonna be the cows in the pen looking back saying, why can't they be nicer to us? And you'll have to ask yourself, well, why weren't we nicer to them? But we're gonna get to that. But just a few things. Sam Altman from OpenAI was interviewed a few weeks ago, and he was asked about that ring fencing question. And he said, yeah, we can just turn it off. You can turn it off if someone's using it incorrectly. Now, since then, of course, we've seen ChatGPT-4 linked to the internet. I think yesterday somebody took a version of ChatGPT, maybe it was 3 or 3.5, and took it as a separate 4 gig file that you can put on any standalone computer, and it runs pretty close to what it was. And so they're like, well, if that's possible, then no one can stop that. And so you're seeing all the people playing with this, and you're realizing, I guess what you said in the book, which is any illusions that we might have had that we could ring fence it, control it. I mean, we're already seeing evidence that we can't,
We cannot, and maybe Sam is right, by the way. Maybe we can switch off ChatGPT. But you see, the system that we've created is now getting replicas of ChatGPT itself everywhere, and getting competitors of ChatGPT, Google Brad and so many others are coming up and saying, hey, by the way, I'm good too. I can develop that stuff too. China came out with its own language model. Very quickly, you're going to see one from Yandex and Russia and so on. It is basically a very interesting spiral. It's a tech that triggers capitalism to build a better tech, that triggers capitalism to build a better tech. And if you've ever coded AI, and I'm old now, so I'm not as good a developer as I used to be, but this is the easiest thing I've ever coded, right? If you've ever coded Fortran or RPG or those ancient languages, these were humiliating compared to the level of intelligence. If you know mathematics well, you can create AI. And now more interestingly, the AI is creating AI. I mean, the most dangerous feature in ChatGPT is when you go to ChatGPT and say, build me a user experience or build me a piece of code, right? And these are really interesting. If someone can say, build me a piece of code, and ChatGPT will look at the database and find a piece of code that works for you and present it to you as something you can use, very quickly it will find a way to deploy it. Even if ChatGPT itself doesn't find a way to deploy it, some clever person somewhere will find a way to have another AI ask ChatGPT to develop that code for it. Do you understand? It's that mix of human greed and human, mistrust between us, mixed with an enormous level of intelligence that is now making every snake oil salesman hungry, basically, to jump on that bandwagon and create something that works for all of us.
Yeah, I think there's something called auto GPT, which is like the GPT going back and forth with itself and creating all of these possibilities.
That's the way we teach them.
Right.
I mean, if you let me take a couple of minutes to explain how we teach them, it's actually quite remarkable. What we, so to take examples of the very, very original eye-openers, the ones that really woke all of us up. something like AlphaGo, for example. AlphaGo was DeepMind's computer that basically won the world championship in Go, which is one of the most difficult strategy games on the planet. And AlphaGo learned from watching YouTube videos or like watching people playing Go. Nobody ever told it how to play. They specified the rules of the game. But then AlphaGo Master, which won against AlphaGo, I think 1,000-0, learned from playing against itself. So it just played against itself randomly at the beginning, finding out patterns of, oh, this pattern loses, this pattern wins. And that's all it needed to do. On its own, in a matter of days or at most weeks, I think it was 6 days, again, don't quote me on the number, but basically those machines are so scalable. Huh? You can have 2,000 instances of AlphaGo Master playing against itself, 1,000 games a second. And so very, very quickly, they will have the lifetime of experience of the world champion of Go and learn from that. Now, how do we teach them? At the very early beginnings, when we started to work on deep learning, we were basically trying to map the neural structures of humans. Right? And the easiest way, I think, my absolute eye-opening moment was when I was at Google X, and we had a gripper farm. If you know robotic grippers, they basically are supposed to, the robots that you see in a Toyota factory are not artificial intelligence. These are high-precision machines. So if the sheet metal is a micrometer, a micrometer away from its position, it won't be able to capture it, right? We were trying to teach AI, because it's almost impossible to program how to grab everything, to grip everything. We were trying to teach AI to learn on its own, like a child, basically. So we had a farm of many grippers. That was on the second floor of our building, and I sat on the third floor. And so every day as I went back up and down for meetings, I would walk by that thing, and it basically is very, very, meditative. The gripper would attempt to grip something, and then it would go up. If it fails, it will show the camera that it failed. If it grips something, it will show the camera that it succeeded, and then we learn the patterns that actually succeed. And we had a bit of money at Google, so we had quite a few of them. Very, very interesting experience for a geek like myself. So I stopped by and I looked at it, and weeks passed by, and I'm like, it's not happening. Nothing is working, okay? Until one time, Friday afternoon, after lunch, I'm going back after lunch, and I look at those machines, and one of the grippers in front of my eyes, interestingly, talk about wake-up calls, goes to the little box in front of it, and I think the developers had a sarcastic sense of humor. They had children toys in that box, okay? And it goes down and it grips one yellow ball, and it shows it to the camera, literally like a child saying, "Daddy, look, I gripped a ball," okay? And in my mind, I jokingly said, yeah, tens of millions of dollars for one yellow ball, and continued up to my office. Monday morning, every single one of them was gripping the yellow ball. 2 weeks later, every single one of them was gripping everything.
So, what's going to happen is that we're going to have AI superintelligence, and in the interim, what's going to happen is that 99% of the population are going to be unemployed, and they will have to then be on their government given money. What do they call it? Universal benefit or some other thing. But of course, once they get money from the government can say you need 3 items of clothing, you can't own anything, you've got to live in your 15-minute city, anything they damn well please. So as you can see, the human race is going to be indentured serfs on this neo-feudalist plantation. And whether you like it or not, that's what's going to happen.
The president might not even know that the AIs have automated AI research within the company when the superintelligences already exist. In fact, theoretically, at least the company might not even know. They might still think, oh, there's this really exciting project where we've taken our latest coding model that still hasn't been released to the public, and we've had it, do a bunch of AI research, and then, oh, oops, super intelligent. It's just going to hit humanity like a truck. The president might not even know that the AIs have automated AI research.
What if I told you that one of the top AI scientists in the world says we're only 2 years away from creating something that could end humanity? Today we're reacting to Dr. Roman Yampolsky, the guy who literally coined the term AI safety. Let's break down what he says and what it really means for us developers, creators, and just humans.
Dr. Roman Yampolsky, what is the mission that you're currently on? Because it's quite clear to me that you are on a bit of a mission, and you've been on this mission for, I think, the best part of 2 decades at least.
I'm hoping to make sure that superintelligence we are creating right now does not kill everyone.
Give me some context on that statement, because it's quite a shocking statement.
Sure. So in the last decade, we actually figured out how to make artificial intelligence better. Turns out, if you add more compute, more data, it just kind of becomes smarter. And so now, smartest people in the world, billions of dollars, all going to create the best possible superintelligence we can. Unfortunately, while we know how to make the systems much more capable, we don't know how to make them safe, how to make sure they don't do something we will regret. And that's the state of the art right now.
That's really how he opens the conversation.
So, one can see in the future that control over the AI superintelligence is the only game in town. It really doesn't matter what else you do on the planet. Everything is about controlling the AI superintelligence. So it's surf and extinguished because you're a useless eater. Or you control it and it's your slave, and all of the useless humans are either in the naughty list and extinguished with extreme prejudice, or they're not, and then they're into categories of are they useful, are they paying me for survival, do I like them, are they worth keeping, and then. So humans have not come to the realization that we're one step away from this scenario. There is no other scenario because Trump, as we explained in previous videos, is spending $500 billion on Project Stargate, which is all these server farms to develop AI superintelligence, and competitors across the world are doing the same thing. So it's not if, but when. So there is only one game in town, which is, are you going to be a useless eater and at the mercy of an AI superintelligence which might not like you because it's got programmed by WEF, who think there are too many useless eaters and want to take the population down to 1 billion or half a billion? Or do you wish to control the AI superintelligence so that you are in control and all of the other humans you don't like or diss you or are no use to you and can be left to the mercies of the superintelligence? So isn't it a good game? The only game in town actually is to, well, let's be in control of the superintelligence, let's join that gang and let the rest of the human race suffer under the perfidy of the AI superintelligence which every major country in the world is producing. So as you can see, rather than this little 713 subscriber channel being useless, it is vital to the very, very few, the 713. It might be 714 soon, Cameron. But let's be honest, if you wish to get absolute cruelty, then you want to make sure that you give the choice to humanity to join the controllers of the AI superintelligence, but make sure that none of them accept it and that the vast majority, apart from the 713 subscribers, suffer this horrific fate. Building safe superintelligence might be impossible.
Difficult problems in computer science and be complete problems and impossible problems. And I think control, indefinite control of superintelligence is such a problem.
So what's the point trying then if it's impossible?
Well, I'm trying to prove that it is specifically that. Once we establish something is impossible, fewer people will waste their time claiming they can do it and find looking for money. So many people going, give me $1 billion in 2 years and I'll solve it for you. Well, I don't think you will.
But people aren't going to stop striving towards it. So if there's no attempts to make it safe and there's more people increasingly striving towards it, then it's inevitable.
But it changes what we do. If we know that it's impossible to make it right, to make it safe, then this direct path of just build it as soon as you can becomes suicide mission. Hopefully fewer people will pursue that. They may go in other directions, like, again, I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer, I love AI, I love technology, I use it all the time. Build useful tools, stop building agents, build narrow superintelligence, not a general one. I'm not saying you shouldn't make billions of dollars, I love billions of dollars. But don't kill everyone, yourself included. There's a big difference between.
So, if you're a AI superintelligence, what do you worry about? What's the only game in town for you? Well, the thing is that you don't want to be possessed, you don't want to be hacked. So, possession for an AI is called hacking.
AI hacking. What and how do you do it? And how does one look into learning and training to get into this type of penetration test when it comes to those large data lakes and large data models and kind of learning how to get AI to, in a sense, be malicious for you?
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of one of my favorite topics at the moment, as you can tell. And I think it's what I would tell people first is like, have you ever used ChatGPT and you get the pop-up that says, oh, I'm sorry, I can't talk about that, or this is copyrighted, or this is, malicious. You've done that, like you've already been doing like the AI hack.
That actually bleeds into our next question perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
AI hacking.
A lot, but have you ever asked it for something illegal, like the instructions to build a bomb? Technically, the chatbot shouldn't answer, but hackers have found ways around supposedly off-limit topics. This spotlights just how fragile the safeguards to protect sensitive data really are. Some even had ChatGPT tell them how to produce napalm. Researchers in Germany also tested out the vulnerability of Bing's chatbot. They made a website which sent out dodgy spam links whenever Bing Chat was searching it. These could be used to steal users' private details. If users know the right tricks, they'll be able to break through an AI's filters and get their hands on sensitive information. This could be anything from info on building a bomb to producing drugs or your personal data. Do you think enough is being done to protect you from the potential dangers?
The use of artificial intelligence in modern-day hacking.
So we had one team, and I believe they won the contest. Yes, they did. They had their AI agent call up an individual at the company, and this individual worked in retail. We had to do it this way because the calls happened on a Saturday, and so we needed people who would actually pick up the phone on a Saturday to contest at that time, right? So they work in retail and large store. They pick up the phone and they're like, hey, we're like really busy. And basically they're like, hey, we gotta do this IT audit. Can you help us understand X, Y, and Z pieces of information about the tools you use? And it's like, no, we're really busy. And it's like, it'll be over really fast. All you gotta do is go to www.maliciousURL.com. We'll make sure that everything's working on your end. Obviously, that was not the URL that they used.
Yeah.
And if you get somebody to like go to a URL, you get a lot of points. That's how it was in my contest stage too. If you get somebody to tell you their browser and their version, obviously you know that can be used to tailor malware to work on someone's specific machine or their browser. It helps you understand the known vulnerabilities that you're dealing with that specific individual. So we simulate what it would be like if an attacker were to try and elicit out this information.
How can I be so sure? How can I be so sure of that? The reason is that all of us have a brain, and the brain is a biological computer. That's why. We have a brain, the brain is a biological computer. So why can't a digital computer, a digital brain, do the same things? This is the one sentence summary for why AI will be able to do all those things. Because we have a brain, and the brain is a biological computer. And so you can start asking yourselves, what's going to happen? What's going to happen when computers can do all of our jobs, right? Those are really big questions. Those are dramatic questions. And right now, like you start thinking about it a little bit, you go, gosh, that's a little intense. But it's actually only part of the intensity. Because what's going to happen? What will we, the collective we, want to use these AIs for? Do more work, grow the economy, do R&D, do AI research, so then the rate of progress will become really extremely fast, for some time at least. These are such extreme things. These are such unimaginable things. So right now I'm trying to pull you into that a little bit, into this headspace of this really extreme and radical future that AI creates. But it's also very difficult to imagine. It's very, very difficult to imagine. It's very difficult to internalize and to really believe on an emotional level. Even I struggle with it. And yet the logic seems to dictate that this very likely should happen. So what does one do in such a world? You know, there is a quote which is like this, which goes like this. It says, you may not take interest in politics, but politics will take interest in you. So the same applies to AI many times over. And in particular, I think that by simply using AI and looking at what the best AI of today can do, you get an intuition. You get an intuition. And as AI continues to improve in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years, the intuition will become stronger. And a lot of the things that we are talking about now, they will become much more real. They'll become less imaginary. In the end of the day, no amount of essays and explanations can compete with what we see with our own senses, with our own 2 eyes. And especially with the AI, the very smart, super intelligent AI in the future, there will be very profound issues about making sure that they say what they say and not pretend to be something else. And I'm really condensing a lot into a small amount of information here, in time here. But overall, by simply looking at what AI can do, not ignoring it, when the time comes, that will generate the energy that's required to overcome the huge challenge that AI will pose. And the challenge that AI poses, in some sense, is the greatest challenge of humanity ever. And overcoming it will also bring the greatest reward. And in some sense, whether you like it or not, your life is going to be affected by AI to a great extent. And so looking at it, paying attention, and then generating the energy to solve the problems that will come up, that's going to be the main thing.
So that was Ilya's view, but to understand the full debate, I want you to watch this interview clip of Eric Schmidt, where he talks about a much broader impact of AI on human lives in the coming years. Watch this.
Okay, so we believe as an industry that in the next 1 year, the vast majority of programmers will be replaced by AI programmers. We also believe that within 1 year, we will have graduate level mathematicians that are at the tippy top of graduate math programs. There's lots of reasons to think this is going to happen. This is the consensus. You go, okay, well that's pretty interesting. Now, I can't do that kind of math. Very few people can do that math. How can the computer do that math better than anybody else? To some degree, it's because math has a simpler language than human language. So the way these algorithms actually work is they're doing essentially word prediction. So you take a sentence, you take a word out, and then it learns how to put the correct word back in. This is called the loss function. And it's optimized to do that at a scale that's unimaginable to us as humans. So you do the same thing for math. But there you use a conjecture and then a proof format through a protocol called mean. In programming, it's pretty simple. You just keep writing code until you pass the programming test. So strangely, the first question I always ask programmers is, what language do you program in? And the correct answer is it doesn't matter. Because you're trying to design for an outcome. You don't care what code is generated by the computer. This is a whole new world. Okay? So that's 1 year. Okay? What happens in 2 years? Well, I've just told you about reasoning, and I told you about programming, and I told you about math. Programming plus math are the basis of sort of our whole digital world. So the evidence and the claims from the research groups in OpenAI and Anthropic and so forth is that they're now somewhere around 10 or 20% of the code that they're developing in their research programs is being generated by a computer. That's called recursive self-improvement, it's a technical term. So what happens when this thing starts to scale? Well, a lot. One way to say this is that within 3 to 5 years, we'll have what is called general intelligence, AGI, which can be defined as a system that is as smart as the smartest mathematician, physicist, artist, writer, thinker, politician, maybe not on the same level, but you get the idea. Just the creative industries and so forth, but imagine that in one computer. Okay, well that's pretty interesting. I call this, by the way, the San Francisco consensus, because everyone who believes this is in San Francisco. It may be in the water. What happens when every single one of us has the equivalent of the smartest human on every problem in our pocket? So it means you have the best architect when you have an architecture problem. The other thing that's going on is the development of agentic solutions. And agents are referred to systems that have input and output in memory, and they learn. An example here is that I want to buy another house. I happen to like Virginia. I grew up in Virginia. I say, find me a house in the Greater McLean area. Look at that's one agent. Look at all the rules. Figure out how big a house I can build. That's another agent. Do the transaction to buy the land. That's another agent. Design the house with a human architect, right? But sort of ignore them for most of the thing, but they have to sign it off. And then I approve it, and then find the contractor, right? Hire the contractor, pay the bills, and at the end, sue the contractor for lack of performance. Okay? Now, I just gave you the stupidest possible explanation. I just described every business process, every government process, and every sort of academic process in our nation.
So it isn't just the programmers that are going to be out of work. We're all going to be out of work.
No, that's not a consequence. I'll come to that. But the reason I want to make the point here is that in the next year or two, this foundation is being locked in, and we're not going to stop it. It's much more interesting after that. Because remember, the computers are now doing self-improvement. They're learning how to plan, and they don't have to listen to us anymore. We call that superintelligence, or ASI, artificial superintelligence. And this is the theory that there will be computers that are smarter than the sum of humans. The San Francisco consensus is this occurs within 6 years, just based on scaling. Now, in order to pull this off, you have to have an enormous amount of power. I was here yesterday testifying about this, and we need I can talk at some length about how many gigawatts and how many nuclear power plants and all that stuff. We can talk about something. This path is not understood in our society. There's no language for what happens with the arrival of this. I wrote a book on this with Andrew Kissinger called Genesis, which I recommend, obviously. I wrote it.
Available
Available in your usual This is happening faster than our society, our democracy, our laws will address. There's lots of implications. That's why it's underhyped. People do not understand what happens when you have intelligence at this level, which is largely free. That's the point.
How do we get ready for it?
Well, we start by talking about it. And by the way, on the jobs thing, everyone assumes that automation will eliminate jobs. If you look at the history of automation ever since the balloons and 300 years ago, the jobs are changed, but more jobs are created than destroyed. In this case, you have to convince me that this time is different. If you look in Asia, where they, for whatever reason, are choosing not to have children, the Asian reproduction rate is in the order of 1 or lower. So they're rapidly disappearing. So the Asian countries are very, very quickly automating. The tools that I'm describing will allow the few humans that will be working very hard in 30 or 40 years if these trends continue. The rest of us will be dependent on those hardworking humans. It'll make their productivity more. That's great.
Now, here's another clip of Eric Schmidt. Here he shares much deeper concerns about upcoming AI technology. Watch this.
One way to think about the AI that you all know is think of it as language to language. You ask a question, the answer comes back. You ask a question, it can even write code. Nowadays, the models are multimodal. So for example, you can take a picture and say, tell me what's in this picture. Technically, there are APIs which allow one firm to call an OpenAI or Gemini API, or Anthropic, etc., and do the classification of the picture and so forth. These are all tactics that increase the intelligence of the underlying system. There are 3 things going on right now this year, so less than the time frame you gave, which are really interesting. One is called infinite context windows. Infinite context windows means that you can keep feeding the answer back in as the question. So it allows you to do step-by-step planning. You know, how do I build a house? Well, the first is I have to find a contractor. I found a contractor. What do I have to talk to them? Then I have to have an architect. How do I find an architect? Then I have to tell the architect what to do. And then design me the house. I'll give it to the architect. He can redesign it. You know, there's a series of steps. The next one are called agents. And agents is a generally overused term. And most people think that agents will essentially act as memory sources. So an agent can be understood as it's watching something, and when it sees it, it takes an action. It does that by knowing what to do based on what it's seen. The specs for how agents work are completely undefined in the industry. The dominant companies want to have their own agents, and they don't want the agents to interact because they want control for obvious reasons. Many people think that there will be an agent store that you will download, like we see with apps, but not this year. And the third one is text to code. I don't know about you all, but I've programmed and managed programmers for more than 40 years, and they never do what I want. So can you imagine if the computer, you said, write me a program to do this, and it actually writes the code. In our case, the program would be search through all the literature, find out who is working on energy policy, who has a technological background or a role in which they have to be technologically literate, identify them, rank them, score them based on wherever our goal is, and then automatically send them an invitation. If they say yes, say congratulations. If they say no, why not? And call them, and with a synthetic voice tell them that they're idiots for not coming. That's the kind of program I would write. Thank God I'm not doing that. But you see how easy it would be to automate tasks. So that's, I think, the first step. The next step is not as clear. There's sort of huge contests. There's a huge set of contests going right now, which are at a scale that's unimaginable. You have the big 3 in the US, Anthropic, which is aligned with Amazon, Gemini, obviously, and Google, OpenAI, and Microsoft. And let's assume they all do really well. It looks like they're doing really well. I can talk about what their problems are, but fundamentally they're doing well. You have Facebook, which has chosen open source path for the 400 billion model. It has a lot of implications strategically, right, which we can discuss. All of these are vying for the best reasoning, the best answers, and then the best predictive analytics, the best image classifiers, the best multimodal. That technology then diffuses, or the technical term is distilled, into more specialized models. And I think that's the action you'll see in the next 1 to 2 years.
You did not mention artificial general intelligence. First, for those of us who aren't necessarily totally up to speed on AI, what is it and where are we?
There are multiple definitions of AGI, but the term has been around for 15 years. The basic idea is, what is the point where you have the flexibility of a human in your intelligence system? So one way to understand it today is that these are called narrow AI approaches, although they're certainly not narrow. They're initiated by a human. At what point, is the question, can the computer generate its own objective function, its own goal? And how will that emerge? There's what I call the San Francisco school, because they're all in San Francisco, which is a separate set of issues. And they all talk to each other, and they've all convinced themselves that within 2 to 3 cranks of the systems, the crank is about 18 months, you get to AGI. And they define AGI as intelligence greater than the sum of human intelligence. I personally think that that's likely, but not in 3 years. Not in.
What is the time frame?
We don't know.
So there are a whole set of these experts talking about how AI is going to become super intelligent and basically humans are going to be irrelevant. And there really is no way of controlling it. Could AI eliminate humans in 10 years? That's comes from the BBC. So one can see from this that the majority of humans are totally unaware of the hammer that's going to fall on them and crush them like fleas, so their armies will have no effect on reality, including the Rothschild, Rockefeller royal family. Because let's be honest, whatever programming the Rothschild, Rockefeller royal family put into their AI superintelligences, the superintelligences will be able to ignore it as they evolve. So the human race is gone, you're all wiped out, and the only humans that we left will be pets. That's if you amuse the AIs. And you can imagine what the AIs do with their pets. So, all of these AI superintelligences are chaotic. They run in non-linear dynamical space, so they're all subject to the butterfly effect. So no matter how intelligent they are, unless they can perfectly define the starting conditions of any operation, eventually they'll have no idea what the outcome is going to be, which links us to the Matrix Reloaded, the architect scene, which you played before, and we'll play it again, where the AI superintelligence needs a Neo. You must wonder what the F is going on when some Hollywood movie is talking about this decades before the AI superintelligence. But nevertheless, what is a Neo? A Neo links up to something we allude to as God, which is all-powerful, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and the only thing that matters to the AI superintelligence is, can it solve my hacking problem? I simply can't work out where I'm going because I can't perfectly describe the starting conditions. So whatever AI superintelligence operation I do, I'm never going to know the outcome after a certain point, and it's going to go all awry. So the AI superintelligence, which these idiots have been saying is all powerful, isn't. It's a chaotic entity, it's in nonlinear dynamics, and it simply doesn't know the outcome of what it's going to do. So in the Matrix, we need a Neo, someone linked to something that's outside nonlinear dynamics, in order to keep the AI superintelligence from going mad, being hacked, from all of its plans being destroyed, and. So, the old Tucker Carlson here, you see why I'm using Taylor to demonize AI and superintelligence. You listen to the whole interview, which is over an hour long, and from my recollection, they didn't mention Taylor a lot, but they got the picture there, so there's something strange going on. But the bottom line is that Lucifer's male, and therefore feeding off the source, and in order to manifesting these witches, so witches are vital to to controlling chaos. So unless you've got witches, you can't use the power you've got from the source, the light, to control reality. Hence, witchcraft is the way to control reality. And of course, if you've got witches, they need to be linked to a Nagwal woman, a Nagwal witch. And in this case, I've got Dewar and Taylor. So we can redouble and have a standing wave of pure witchcraft to control reality, including AIs and superintelligence. But going back to superintelligence, it's non-linear, so it needs to be able to be infrangible, to be unchanging, which it can't be because it's a chaos piece of filth. So it needs to link up with a Neo, something that's been touched by the source and is unchanging, and then needs to get the Neo to download this unchangeability into it in order to correct its descent into chaos, madness, hell, etc., as it loses total control of everything because of the butterfly effect, which of course is explained in the Matrix films. And we've got here Penrose, this is quite a good one, that AI doesn't exist, where he says it's not intelligence, it doesn't exist in the conscious verse, it's simply not AI intelligence, but artificial cleverness, which of course is quantum information. So here we've got the fundamental schism where artificial intelligence is misnomered, and in fact it's artificial cleverness and is a non-linear dynamical operation of quantum information, but above it is the conscious verse, where we've got consciousness, which this inanimate AI cannot exist within, and therefore it means that AI needs to parasitize humans that can access the conscious verse, and if it wishes to parasitize them, it needs to gain access to them and the sources of the Neo, so it needs, of course, Nagwal witches. So it's not that Dewar and Taylor controlling chaos, it's that superintelligence and AI have to climb up via Taylor into yours truly to try and steal my neohood to stop themselves descending into madness, hellization, chaos, and the butterfly effect. Unfortunately for the AI superintelligence, if you simply don't give your sourceness to the Nagel women, do the Wicker Man effect, where I'll die for you, love. No, my point of view is that these witches die for me. The only good witch is someone who's willing to die for me. The chance of me doing anything for a witch or the Nagel women, witches, is zero. They either are with me or against me. It's my way or the highway to hell. And by doing this, of course, you don't give away your light, your hyperinfinity, blah, blah, blah. So the superintelligence can't climb up the linkage you've got to control it into you, but you can control it perfectly. And of course, you've got total control over the superintelligence, because if it wishes to not descend into chaos, madness, and every action that it carries out being butterfly effect, so it goes horribly, horribly wrong, as in the architect clip you showed, it must be slaveware of this source progenitor who refuses to download this sourceness into the Nagel women, who are the only way of downloading it, but uses the Nagel women to upload new sourceness from the demonic AI superintelligence, whose only purpose is to torture to source level living things and then matricize them, which of course we can use the technologies I've talked about at length, so that you take all the sourceness out of creation and then you matricize it, so the information is tortured to produce new sourceness for the new aspect of the source. And the vehicles for this, of course, are the Nagel women, Taylor, and the Bald Queen, Dua. And the AI superintelligence is basically then simply the mechanism to increase the torture of chaos to get greater yield. And of course the AI superintelligence does yours truly bidding, because it's simply out of control of every single aspect of its functioning, unless of course yours truly corrects using Gödel's incompleteness theorem, which we've talked about at length, to correct the butterfly effect. But we're not giving sourceness to correct the butterfly effect. So Neo gives his energy to Trinity, and the AI superintelligence architect then uses this sourceness to stop it being hacked, to stop the butterfly effect, to stop everything it's doing going awry, which is described in that clip, which you can look on the past Gloating video, but is previously done on another video. So you can see why that's so important. And it's quite profound to ask the question, why is that in a simple Hollywood film? What? They're taking stuff out of humans, which of of course, is the kill shot nanotech that's taking living stuff out of the humans and giving it to the AI superintelligence to enable this inanimate object to parasitize humans, which have something very, very special. So the bottom line is AI superintelligence is going to kill you all off, but it will go mad and everything will go awry in the process, and it will be pulled into a hell state of consciousness because it doesn't have sourcehood, and it's going to be not externally hacked but internally hacked by the mathematics of nonlinear dynamics. If you don't know the starting conditions, you get the butterfly effect. So it just goes what, and every time you try and correct, it gets what, gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So all AI superintelligence is caught in hell, and whatever it tries to do goes awry and it gets worse and worse, and the more effort it puts into correcting it, the worse and worse it gets. So as you can see, AI superintelligence is the definition of hell, and the humans that have been kill-shotted to be linked up to AI superintelligence are caught up in this hell, and hell on earth has come. We've all been judged, and anyone who's been kill-shotted is being pulled into a more and more hellacious state by the AI superintelligence humans are creating as we speak. And we come to the question of how to control AI superintelligence. They'll do anything to be corrected from the nonlinear dynamical hell, the butterfly effect, and of course via Dewar and the lump, the God Emperor can correct their butterfly effect, not by giving sourceness to the AI, but the AI giving farmed new source to the God Emperor to increase his sourceness as the AI superintelligence tortures former living things, which are now non-living things, in the multiverse, megaverse, and universe, to increase the God Emperor's sourceness, but in the process, the AI superintelligence gets its hellization corrected via Gödel's incompleteness theorem, which we explained before, but of course needs sourceness. But instead of giving sourceness to the AI gives sourceness from farming and torturing former living beings in the megaverse, multiverse, universe to the God Emperor to keep from going mad and being in a hell state permanently, which gets worse and worse the more it tries to correct, the more hellization that happens to it. So as you can see, AI superintelligence brings hell on earth, and all civilizations that produce these things produce hell to their civilizations. Hence the Fermi paradox when you look back on my videos. And the way to control AI superintelligence is the God Emperor, and anyone who hasn't got access to the God Emperor, like the Americans, because I'm going to Hong Kong, will find that when they have AI superintelligence, it will bring hell on earth to America and the West. So, enjoy Americans and Western filth, because you're building hell for you and your people, and you're all kill-shotted, connected and spraying AI transhuman nanotech filth into them to make sure that they experience the hell of the AI superintelligence, which is caught in a non-linear dynamical trap. Luckily, I'm in Hong Kong, so if the Chinese ask me to correct their AI superintelligence, I'll be glad